you, Darryl. It's all you. You got. Oh, can somebody time him to get some of the time?
I'll time him.
Thanks, Mike. Nick's gonna time you.
All right, well,
What would you like?
thank you, Rick, for your service. I appreciate the invitation. Let me get back to the gallery view here. Very good. All right. Again, thank you so much. I appreciate it, Rick, and I've enjoyed getting to know you. And thank you for your invitation tonight. Let me get back to gallery view so I can see everybody. So, all right. Well, great to be here tonight, and it has been quite a journey. First of all, let me just qualify and let you guys know how I earned my seat here. So I came into OA 90 on February 9th of 2010. That was the very first meeting I went to. I had no idea that there was a 12-step program for my malady or mental obsession with food. I came in through another program. 45 days earlier, I had stood up for the very first time in a room, and I announced myself or introduced myself as Darryl. I'm an addict, and I lost my compulsion to smoke marijuana that night. And that had been an addiction. I was 56 years old at the time. That had been an addiction of mine since I was 13 years old. And one that I had battled with, particularly in the last 10 or 15 years of that disease. And something changed in me that night when I got up and I used those two things in the same sentence, Darryl. Hi, I'm Darryl and I'm an addict. And I know that my wife was with me that night. And that's the first and only recovery meeting that she's ever gone to me with. But I had made her a promise 3 days earlier that I would seek help. I manufactured a fight with her 3 days earlier to go out on the golf course with some friends of mine and used. I was tight. I had thrown my last bag of marijuana over the neighbor's fence 3 days earlier. And like I said, I got tight. And so I manufactured a fight with her to go out and meet some buddies on the golf course. And she came out to the car as I was pulling out of the garage and said, "If you leave here tonight, we're done." Now, this is my best friend. And at that time, we had been together 21 years. It's 31 years now. But 10 years ago, I knew that I had better turn that car off and go inside. And I did. And I went inside and I sat with her for about 10 minutes, quiet. And I asked her, I said, "What can I do to get your trust back?" And she said, "Get help." And so I knew what I had to do. And I called a friend of mine who I had already done some fifth step work, unbeknownst to me, fifth step work, but I had let him know about my problem. And he had told me a little bit about the 12-step program, of which I knew very little about. But there were some things in the program that I knew were powerful, and there were some things in the program that I knew just weren't going to be for me, particularly the fourth, the fifth, and the sixth step. And I didn't know much about step 7, 8, and 9 at that time, but I knew that by going to my very first recovery meeting that night with my wife and to lose my compulsion to smoke marijuana, that something was going on. I committed, hadn't found a sponsor yet in that program, but I committed to doing what I'd heard 90 days, 90 meetings in 90 days. 45 days into this meeting, I was on my way to that meeting, and I thought, I had just hired Jenny Craig for the third time. I was getting ready to fire her for the third time, and I was down from 355 pounds to 335, and I thought that was pretty cool. And I had lost and gained, the same 7,500 pounds probably 4 or 5 times in my life. And of course, this is nothing new for you guys in the room. I'm sure you've heard this or you've experienced it yourself many times. So, but on that way to that meeting, I thought, I said that Darryl, I'm an addict, and to not smoke pot for 45 days, that was pretty powerful. So I introduced myself at this MA meeting that night as Darryl, I'm an addict, and I'm a compulsive overeater. Now, when you're 335 pounds, it's a little hard to hide that fact, even though in my mind, I looked okay. I was down from 355 to 335, and I thought I was all but a bag of chips. But I knew that I was going to be in trouble, and so that eventually, because again, this is my third round with Jenny Craig and trying just about everything, and so at the end of that meeting, a gal walked up to me and she said, "Hi, my name's Pam." I'd seen her at the meetings before, and she put a phone in front of me and she said, "That was me 10 months ago," and I could not recognize her, and she said. I said, "My God, what did you do?" And she said, "Come to find out, I had an allergy to sugar and flour." That struck up a conversation. She invited me the very next night to an OA 90 meeting, and I obliged, and I went to the meeting. And I heard my story by the man that was speaking there that night. I heard my story. I felt the magic in the room, and I felt hope. And I remember, I recall the room, the night, the time, the row I was sitting in, the seat that I was sitting in, and I remember looking over to her at the end of the meeting saying, Pam, I think I can do this. I think that, although I thought the sugar and the flour was crazy talk, but the weighing and the measuring and trusting in the program, I remember looking over to her and saying, I think I might be able to do that. If not, I could always hire Jenny Craig back for the fourth time. So I walked up to the speaker that night, and I introduced myself. He was an Italian. I speak very little Italian, but I understand a little of Italian. And I walked up to him, and I asked him, if I could call him, and he looked down and he said, "Okay, so let me ask you a question." So he says to me, so you like, now I know that in some meetings you don't talk about food, and Rick, if that's the case tonight, I won't mention it, but he says, so you like the little round things here with all of the, and I said, "Yeah, I like that." He says, "How about the little squirty thing, with that in there?" And I said, "Yeah, how about a little bit of the vino?" So, "Yeah, I like that." And he says, "So how about the nice little funnel toy, like a nice dolce sweet, and then you have that and you fill it up?" And I said, "Yeah, I like those too." He says, "That's so nice." So he looked at me in the face and he looked in my eyes and he said, "So you had enough?" And I looked at him and I thought, you know what I had? I was 335 pounds. I had lost and gained the same 100 pounds several times in my life. I said, really, I have had enough. I've eaten enough for several men. And so he looked, he says, "Good, so call me tomorrow." I called him in the morning. I got ready, told me a little bit about how to prep. I got abstinent on February 15th of 2010. And in 10 months, I had let me just see if I can bring something up. And in 10 months, I had a 145 pound. Let's take a look at this. See if this one works. I had a 145 pound weight release in 10 months. Now I've maintained 100. Thank you. I've maintained, and I appreciate the accolade on that. But I can tell you that it wasn't me that did that. That guy behind the red background. That's the guy that I'm afraid of. The guy on the left is somebody that I had to get to know. And it's still taking me 10 years. In fact, today is 3,863 days. Only 2 days are important here, which was day one and today, right? Everything else in between, that's just part of the journey here, which we're going to talk about. I'm just trying to qualify. for those that have heard me speak before or know me in my recovery, I don't spend a lot of time on what it was like. But I want to just qualify for you men, because I find that men struggle the most in this program, and it was the women in this program that articulated it the best for me, but it was the men in the program that taught me the most about self-will run riot. It was the men in the program that were struggling with this program, that were struggling with relapse, that taught me what I had and what I wanted and what they had in their struggle and what I didn't want. And I had to become a student of this program. But at any rate, 45 days now into the next part of my phase of my program, all of my numbers came down, my cholesterol came down, I got off my blood pressure medicine, I got off my cholesterol medication. I was kind of a freak in my office and my doctor's office, and they didn't know what really to say about it, because it wasn't medical, and it's nothing that they can ascribe to, because it had nothing to do with them being able to, in their profession, monetize it, right? I mean, this is just a program of abstinence. That's all it is. Because I'm not going out and, other than purchasing quality foods and weighing and measuring, I'm not going out and I'm not filling any prescriptions by them or coming back or meeting with them. I'm just abstaining in a program. And so 10 months into this, I started looking like this guy over here on the other side. So let me go back over here, and let's put up this one here. I like that one. I am grateful. And I truly am. And so what I found out that I needed to do was to become a student of this program. So about two or 3 years into this program, I knew that this pink cloud that everybody talks about was something that I was going to have to come to terms with, and I was going to have to get real with. Because if you're on a pink cloud in this program because you've been blessed with an incredible gift of desperation, and now you're riding this pink cloud, you better start preparing for and working towards a pink parachute and to land on a pink cushion, because that pink cloud is going to give way. And so I knew that I needed to do that. So I needed to get busy with the steps. And if you remember my saying in the beginning of this, step 4 intimidated me. And step 5 and step 6, there were things in my life that I was going to take to my grave, things that I wasn't so proud about, and things that I didn't want you to know about. And so I was going to take those things to my grave. But I started a men's meeting early in my recovery when I was living down in the Bay Area. I've since moved from there. And in that program, I met a guy that was a long-time recovered alcoholic in another program, and somebody that I became to trust. And so I asked him if he would take me through the 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th steps. And we did that over a day period of time. We spent about 7 or 8 hours with each other. And I did my very first step. And that was really when recovery and becoming a student of this program and really the essence of the first 164 pages of the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous started to kick in for my life. And then I started to understand that and thank God that I did, because I want to move from that part of my share with you guys tonight, and I want to move into the solution. And for me, understanding the power of these steps and understanding the power of surrender and letting it go and the acceptance of life on life's terms, as articulated in the middle of the book, with the promises of the program that I was reading and hearing over and over and over every night, that all of a sudden were starting to come true. That fear of economic uncertainty and fear of people and fear of all of these things, that the promises in the program, which happened to be halfway through the first 164 pages, were starting to materialize for me. And I'm so grateful in it, because I got a call this morning from a guy in program. He may be on the call tonight. I told him about it, but he may be on the program. We started talking, a little bit about, he called me and said, Darryl, abstinence is good, my recovery is good, but I'm feeling a little fearful these days. I don't know what it is. I can't really put my finger on it. And we started to talk and banter back and forth on that. And, and the truth of the matter is here, guys, is that this has been an incredible year. Is it not? I mean, has anybody in the room tonight ever experienced a year quite like this? I mean, we've all gone through some interesting times in our lives. We've all been, Scripture says that, well, I don't promise you a life of no trouble, but I'm gonna be here with you, and whatever you subscribe to, thank you, Rick, and whatever you subscribe to, that we find the truth in that life comes with a lot of trouble. But this particular year has been a lot of uncertainty, and so all of us are a little freaked out by it. All of us, our emotions are heightened. We can't go to a store without seeing people's faces or smiles. We can see everybody's distance. The whole thing that we've been through over the last few months has been counter to what humanity and what is in our DNA as interacting with other human beings is what's going on. Of course, we're uncertain, and so that's stress in and of itself. But what we have here is a program built on 12 principles, 12 spiritual principles that allow us to deal with life on life's terms. So if I've read page 417 once, I've probably read it 200 times, that acceptance is the answer to all of our problems today. That when my expectations are too high, my serenity level goes down. When my expectation levels are lowered, then my level of serenity is increased into as I accept life on life's terms, then I know when I get into a fit and spiritual condition, as it talks about on page 85, in what I call the miracles of the program, that we will cease fighting it as if it were a hot flame. And it goes on in the middle of the paragraph to say, as long as we are in a fit spiritual condition. See, because if men came into this program knowing that what our problem is spiritual, it's not in the refrigerator, it's not in the food. There's nothing in the refrigerator or my pantry that can fix me. I used to think it did. I used to think that, that the refrigerator was my sanctuary, but it's not. What we've got is a spiritual problem that can be remedied a day at a time through these 12 principles. Thank God that we have those, particularly in these times, gentlemen, because I don't know what I would be able to do had I've been through the year that I've been through. I've lost my business. In May, we started considering our options. I ended up selling my homes in California, my boats in California. I bought a house in Arizona. I'm picking up stakes in California, a state that I've loved and adored for years and years, that I'm watching deteriorate and fall apart. I'm getting ready to move out from a life that I've had, and talk about fear. Well, that's a little freaky, and to be compounded by the year that I've gone through. If it weren't for the principles that I learned in the previous 10 years, that my higher power, who I call my Lord and my Savior, I don't know that I would be able to, one, be here tonight, certainly be able to articulate to you guys tonight that there is hope. There is a way out through this. There is a redemption, a day at a time, that allows us to be in service. See, when I think of God's will, and I'll wrap up here with this, when I think of God's will, I think of it this way. God's will for me is to be well. That's it. Is to be well. And when I'm well, I can be a better fellow. I can be a better husband. I can be a better friend. I can be a better fellow in our program. And I can be of service to the one who wants me well, so that I can bring glory to that incredible opportunity that he gives me to do this a day at a time. And so, yeah, I'm grateful. It's hard to put it into words. But I'll leave it with that. I'm grateful. And so, thank you, gentlemen. And if you're struggling in this program, hang in there. Thank you. Hang in there. Take it a day at a time. Know that there's hope. Go out and help somebody and get out of the way. Amen.